Okay, we're up. And hold on. Let me do sound up. Make sure this is all gonna work. Yep, okay. Oh, looks like it might be, it's probably a little too loud. Can go in here and let's turn it down to, yeah, about that. That's probably good. Nah, still might be too loud. 40. Okay, that's probably good. Seems to turn it down a little bit. There we go. That's probably good. We've got to pull up the chat here while we let the intro play, of course. We've got the upper screen in the top because that's the screen that is used in the actual playing of the game, most of it. And the lower screen on the upper left corner. This is platinum, not diamond or pearl, because it's the more advanced version. So let us go through this opening sequence. It's very cool, I'm sure. This opening sequence is unique to platinum. The diamond and pearl ones have a different one. But it is the first time a sort of 3D thing is going on here. If you'll notice at the bottom of the screen, the DS can do sort of 3D graphics, so there is some 3D jank going on here, especially with that one. Yep, here we go, title screen. Oh, I'm not tabbed into the game. That's why it wasn't going. Let's keep my mouse down here in case we need to. Yep, see, so we can see that the opening and most of the actual game takes place on the upper screen, and the bottom screen is just the like Pokewatch feature. And we also get the new Pokemon guy, who, unlike Gen 3, is old again. Although Gen 2's guy is pretty old. We also get this sort of info, and we can check this. So they move the, because this is the DS, they now have more. We also need to. Where is it? Okay, there we go. There's a little line on the thing that I want to fix. Hold on. Oh, that's too small. That's too big. And it's still got the little line thing there, so we'll just do that. Is this still good, pretty much? It's a little bit too big. That's actually a lot too big, actually. Sorry about this. I had set this all up and then it got messed up, I think. Okay, there we go. So this is, let's get this centered. Let's get this one, make sure that's up there. Yep. And then just like click this once. Get rid of this little line that's for some reason on the screen. Yep. Oh, maybe. There we go. Okay. The DS has a lot more buttons than the other, not only the original Game Boy, but the Game Boy Advance. There's two new ones, the X and Y button. So they moved the, and it also has the touch screen, which we can use. but they moved the select option to the Y button. They still only have one though. They didn't give you two, like, oh, you can use select or Y. If we hit the adventure info, this gives us the sort of generic, thing that we can get in every game. They also have the left and right buttons, which is not really used in this one. But we can also we also have the touch screen, and the game uses that to its advantage a lot. But this is basically the same thing that we get from every professor. Interestingly, the character designs here are a little bit different than in the other ones. There's a bit of a seasonal thing going on. The season this game takes place in is like fall or winter, while the other ones are like ambiguous. But I will say these are probably the cooler looking character designs. Now, we were Bob before. Maybe we're somebody else. Maybe like we're gonna go for like a Robert, maybe. I thought I select button. Hold on. What's the select button? Right shift. Oh, it's shift. Oh, that's interesting. Maybe so, like, you know, before we were Bob, now we're more refined. So we're doing like a Robert, maybe. Ah, start is enter. Okay. Sure. Now, this is the primary rival of the game, which is more of a traditional rival. I mean, Gen 3 kind of did a little bit of interesting stuff with that, right? You had your sort of main rival was the other person, and then you had Wally, who kind of ran around. I don't think we saw him, but his name is technically Barry, but you can give him any name you want. And I've always thought that this should be his name. I've always thought that he looked like a Ralph. So his name is always Ralph. I mean, look at him. He looks like a Ralph. Like, am I wrong? I think, plus this is like Robert and Ralph then, so I don't know, it's funny. Now, here's the key thing here. Well, I mean, this is going to give us... This part's different from the other games. The opening is actually, like, significantly different for some reason. I'm not entirely sure why. Although it is almost the same. You start off watching a TV, but you're watching a different TV program, which is a weird change. Anyway, as soon as you make your first step, you get interrupted. The rival here, he really wants to be Blue. He's not Blue. He wants to be Gary. He's not Gary. Like, he wants to be very, like, aggressive and, not opposed to you, but, like, antagonistic. But he's just not. Anyway, so now we have, they've moved two features to the X and Y buttons. The X button is now opening your menu, and your Y button is what you will use for bags. We also have a greatly increased bag. There's a whole bunch of new pockets, and you can go by them by clicking on the different things down here, which is pretty cool. And you can also close your thing with that. But now we have sort of, you know, we still have key items, but now we have medicine, Pokeballs, the TM slot, berries, mail, and battle items. So they've really organized it really well at this point, because now you have, like, generic items, medicine, the item slot has been shifted into generic items, medicine, mail, and battle items, when before it was just items, TMs and HMs, berries, and then the key items. So they've definitely improved in that front, and I don't think they really get any better from this. There's a couple of new things I think they add in some games, but for the most part, yeah. I will say, though, the pocket system that they show you, like they show you where your items are in your bag, is not as good as as Gen 3, because it's kind of just highlighting different parts of this generic looking bag. In Gen 3, there was like clearly defined pockets, so the bag design is leaves a little bit to be desired, I will say. But here's the trainer card, which is pretty much the same as all the other ones, although now you can go down here and you can see the badges, and you can actually, we don't have any, but you can shine them, which is pretty cool. And you can flip to get more stuff. And we can, always got to go to options and check out the frames. We now have 20 frames, some of which are like, this is the old style frame. But this is the first one where we get some real interesting frames here. There's the couple to start off with are all just different colors, but then we've got a bunch here. Like this one's kind of an older one. This one's a little, like there's two that are kind of blue. Like the frames here are very, very interesting. I like this one. But yes, the L and R buttons still don't do anything, and we can kind of, there's a touch screen, so they're going to give us stuff to do later, and then it's just going to give us, yep. They switch your PC from being a real PC to being just kind of like a hint giver. And we also get the Wii. Yippee, we love the Wii. And signs, which tell you that the X button opens the menu. Which, yeah. The Y button doesn't do anything because we don't have any items, but that's the sort of like whole assign items slot, which is interesting. That is the other thing that characterizes this guy. He's always running around, which is, I don't know. Yeah, he's like supposed to be impatient or whatever. And the TVs give you a lot more interesting stuff in this game. I will say that, because they actually give you something to like watch, theoretically. Not really, but it is kind of more interesting than the other ones. Yes, so there's snow on the ground. So as we can see, this is winter time. Also, that's the technology guy. The quality of my emulator appears poor. I might have to fix that for the next one. But we also get these little signs that tell you where important things are. This is Twin Leaf Town. We'll check a map so I can look at all the names of things at some point. I don't have the running shoes yet, so this is quite tedious. The TVs in the other one kind of just spit out random stuff, like, oh, they just kind of spit out your random answers to the questions that you go through the game with. Like, oh, you talk to the reporter. The next time you go to a TV, the reporter lady's going to be on there fighting you. Like, there's not really that interesting stuff because you've already, you've already done that. You already know what it is. The news in this game actually does give you some amount of small, like, information, and they do have different things going on. Like, some of it's, it'll tell you some of the weather stuff that happens in the game, which is interesting. And it's mostly the snowstorm up in the thing. That's what I remember. Yeah, he runs in. It tells you you need to go and then leaves, which is funny. Also, I never knew this, but you can find his father, which is interesting. Yeah, he also gives you increasingly larger fines if you're late, which is funny. He also has a Wii. Yeah. There's a whole handful of PCs that just give you vague advice on how to play the game. Oh, right, we can talk to her again. Why is my emulator chugging? That's weird. This is the DS. At some point when I do the 3DS, there might be some problems, but here, let's pause and then start up again and see what's up. The sound is... Oh, whoops. Sound is doing something weird. Oh, it's probably a... Oh, nope, that's worse. Anything quick here that I can... Whoops. Okay. Whew. I don't think there's anything here that I can turn on quickly. I already checked that. We'll keep going for a while. If it gets too bad, I might turn it off. Yes, this is different. In the other games, you go to the left and you end up fighting a Pokemon in the near the lake, and then this guy comes and yeah, this whole beginning is different in the other games, which is just kind of strange because it ends up at like the end result is the same. You get Pokemon and you go. Sure. Yeah, the characterization's a little bit different here. In the other one, it's all his fault. Like, he's the reckless one and he runs around. This is still kind of the same, but he doesn't get any like redemption. He's just kind of crazy. We also get the other kind of rival. That's interesting. In the other one, you get the briefcase. You collect the briefcase. So this is an interesting kind of thing here. I'm gonna be honest, we get to run around. Or I guess we can only go the one way, but yes, here we go. See, it's 3D. We could go for a different Pokemon than I usually go to, but I always go Chimchar, and we're going to keep doing that because it's good. I think, honestly, I think the main character's outfits, or the player character's outfits, make more sense in the wintertime. They kind of, like, the hats are a little bit weird for, like, the summer or the spring or whatever. Yep. And then you fight. So this is all the same. And we haven't gotten a chance to really check our guys. We don't know if there's anything that's changed, really. The UI is a little bit different, but for the most part, you know, this is the same. But we also get the bottom screen being the actions. And right now we can only scratch or leer. There's no options. But it is interesting that this is basically the case, right? Oh, I might have to leer. I mean, you can touch or you can use just your keys and it'll work. Well, if he's gonna keep using growl, I'm gonna keep using leer so that it's parity. Okay, this is what we're doing, I guess. We're having a stat off. I mean, maybe he's coded to not attack? I don't think so. I don't think that's the case. Like, I'm only doing like 1 damage. There's almost no point. Unless he's gonna keep using growl. Which in that case, we're just gonna go through. There, see, he finally used a normal move. So we'll use another leer or two so we can win. It is interesting though that they use we're going to this isn't gonna kill him, is it? And then we're gonna lose. Oh nope, we got it. Okay, there we go. But for the most part, right, this is the same. And really, I mean, this whole game, if you think about the setup and stuff, it is really kind of like a redo of the original, like the first story, just on the DS. I think they really did expect a lot of people to not have played the other ones for this one. Like, this is kind of a new entry point, whereas Gen 2 and Gen 3 are less entry points. Yep. And you get the running shoes. Yay! We now don't have to walk around slowly. Also, the instructions are funny. But they're basically the same. And you can run indoors now, interestingly, I think. Although, the way my thing is chugging, it's not really going a lot faster. I'll have to see if I have any solution to that. You can run indoors, which is cool. Also, all the route numbers in this one are interesting because they all start at 200. The first one's like 201, 202, etc., etc. So it kind of doesn't. A lot of the other ones start kind of where the previous ones end, right? Gen 3s and go from like. Actually, I think Gen 3s start at 1 or 2 again. Maybe, like, Gen 3 might start at, like, 4 or 5 for some reason. Okay, this is the setup for the other one. When you start the other Pearl and Diamond and Pearl, or at least I think Diamond and Pearl, definitely Pearl, I've played Pearl, you just go to Lake Verity. And that's where you get the... but that's kind of... Yeah, this is kind of a slightly different setup, which is interesting. But for the most part, it's the same. Ah, interesting. You meet him early. Yeah, that little spot in the grass is where you get the briefcase. You don't meet Cyrus until later, I think. He kind of shows up at the end. You just meet Team Galactic, and then you're like, oh, they're kind of evil. He's gonna realize, like, it's actually kind of interesting setting it up as a big puzzle here. Oh, he made a joke about the accent. He makes it there first. So you actually don't have to do anything here. I mean, so they do a cool thing with this area. You go here right at the beginning, and then when you get surf, you can actually, like, go on the lake, and you do stuff later. So that's sort of the version of the whole thing from the other games, where it's like, oh, you start out at a town, and at the end you can go the other way. Like, oh, okay, we got our first actual battle against the man, the guy, Bidoof. Everybody loves Bidoof. But we don't have any Pokeballs, so there's really no point here in trying to do something funny. It's just, you know. Just get rid of them. Yeah, there we go. Alright. Oh, we can actually check our Pokemon now. Time to check if they changed anything right off the bat. Yeah, better, easier said than done, buddy. So now we can go to Pokemon, and we can go to the summary. And we can see that, for the most part, this is the same, right? ID number, Pokemon, like, calm nature. It tells you where you met them. It tells you what level you met them at, which is a new thing, but I don't think it's that relevant. The likes type of food thing is new, because I believe the whole Poffin thing is a thing in this generation. Although you did have that ability to, like, combine berries in the previous games. But it's more of a game now. And then, you know, ability, all the stats. And we can also check the moves. And we have a category here which tells us if it's a special attack or physical or special, which I believe was a thing before. I have to double check, but for the most part it's more relevant now. We also have a close window tab, which I've never really understood because you can always just hit B, but yeah, that's it. So for the most part they have not changed anything in this game. It's the same, you know. There's like some amount of extra stuff, but in this one, all the base game stuff, pretty much the same. It would not be incorrect to say that this one is just a redo. Which is interesting because if you think about it, Gen 3 was a big change when it went from Game Boy or Game Boy Color to Game Boy Advance. This one, though, going from Game Boy Advance to the DS, doesn't change that much at all, right? There's a few new features with the touchscreen. They kind of set it up for the two screens. Well, that's silly. We're gonna find out what happens. Okay, you drop money in a panic and then you black out, which is different than whiting out. Interesting. But same deal. Is this one harder than the other one? I did not expect just to lose right there. That he did like 16 damage in one hit. That's weird. Oh, I guess it was bide, so he took all of my damage. Oh, nuts. Starly. Yeah, if you really think about it, I think it's kind of interesting because this is the game that I think a good amount of people got into it, right? This is kind of an entry level game compared to Gens 2 and 3. But at the same time, this is probably the first one that really fell into the they didn't really change anything problem. Where, yeah, they didn't really change anything. Oh, now we have Ember, so we're not going to lose. Yes. Is this person? Yes, it gives you a potion. So this person gives you a potion instead of getting it from to your PC. But now we have Ember, which means that we can just do that. I do really like the little borders on all of the moves. And in fact, the UI changes, I think, are all pretty good. They're built off of the Gen 3 UI changes, but I think they are better in this one, and they aren't kind of limited anymore in terms of like, oh, we have to do it. Like, this game is sort of based on the pixel artwork of Gen 3, but it doesn't have to be, right? They have the ability to do a lot more interesting stuff, but they chose to make it look like Gen 3, which is kind of interesting. Yeah, see, this line in the other games comes right after what's his name chews you out for basically taking his Pokemon. So he's like, he basically goes, oh yeah, he's fine. I just totally stole this guy's Pokemon, but he's just fine. So it appears right now we've gotten back onto the same, like we've gotten into this same area. Like, it's going the same now. They also have a lot of little animations in this game that they don't have in the other ones. No. Oh, that's interesting. He tells you you're cool, and he tells you to be cool. And Dawn makes an implication that she'd have to beat you up, which is funny. He's Rowan, which is a type of tree, as always. And we get the Pokédex, which is a new one again. It looks different, and we'll check it out. We'll check it out. Don't worry. It's definitely the best looking one, and also I think, well, I don't know how old Professor Oak is in the original, but no, they all have ages. See, that line's really funny because her the extra Pokemon, she changes to whatever one wasn't chosen. So as it goes, you choose Chimchar, then you choose one, your rival chooses the one that's super effective. She gets whatever one's left, but she always acts like she gets whatever, like she always had whatever one you didn't choose, which is funny. She's also, well, he or she, whichever gender your character is not, is the one that character is. But we also have a PC that we can't use. Alright, Pokédex. What does it look like? Here it is. It's pretty cool looking, actually. Oh, whoops, I went out. And we can see we can search, we can check the entry, and we get a whole bunch of information, which is cool, but not particularly, it's all for fun, right? We get a day, morning, day, night thing, which we can scroll around and check, which is cool, right? This is the sort of full implementation of that Gen 2 feature. We can mess with, we get the sounds, and we can turn it into a chorus, I guess. We can add reverb. We can add a filter. This is all, you can mess with the sounds here for some reason. Oh, and you can have it repeat, I think. Yeah. We can also do this height and weight check. Height check, weight check. Very funny. Chimchar is only a foot tall and only weighs like 13 pounds. So he's a funny little guy. And then if we go here, we can get the area info. And we will see that as we move this around, it'll highlight the areas. We also get the map, which is a very interesting map. I think it's one of the cooler maps in the game. It's kind of got a whole bunch of extremities that you go to, but it's still pretty centered in the sort of 2 or 3 concentric circles with 2, one output, a little bit going on. It's I like the Gen 4 map. Yep. And these people actually have lore now, which is funny. It's random. It's not really important, but it is funny. Robert. Oh, and you get a TM right away. That's funny. I think return is actually a pretty good move. I think she just kind of tells you what's up. It's really interesting, actually. The art style is specifically emulating the Gen 3 one, but it's still 3D, right? The characters are all little sprites, but the buildings and background is a full kind of 3D background, which they use to great advantage in Gen 5, I've heard. They actually get a little bit of what's the word? Depth going. Height. But she tells you about the Poke Center and stuff. Alright, we can buy things from the Pokemart, but we probably won't. And they get signs. And we have this this is the probably most well-known design of the Poke Center with the two areas now. We have now progressed to 2 below and above. We also have the little dot in the middle that you can stand in, which is from the remakes of Gen 1. And we get the perfectly symmetrical little table right here. And we get basically what has been the same thing since Gen 3-ish. Gen 3 had a little bit of a different design. But we also get this stuff over here. We get a new looking PC. They now look like very strange little... They don't look like computers anymore. They look more like... oh, and here, we'll move this out of the way. And we get someone's, which is the Pokemon storage system, which we can... So let's move this back over. Okay. And we get basically the same thing that we had in Gen 3. This is effectively the same. 18 boxes, which is, I think, the same. I think we have pretty much the same wallpaper, actually. I mean, they're all... they're all a little bit different because you know, it's a completely different... Like, it's a completely different system, so they all do look different, but the styles are basically the same. But we can jump, change the name, do all the same stuff. Back. Oh. I'm calling it Bo, I guess. Whatever. Don't care. It's not really that important. I think the only major advantage is that you can tag the boxes or the Pokemon, so you can give them like little symbols that'll tell you which ones are which. We can go to our PC, which doesn't store items anymore. They've actually stopped doing that entirely. Instead, it's just got mailbox and capsules, ball capsules, which you don't really do in the actual game. It's mostly just a multiplayer feature. And then this is the checking the Pokédex thing. And now we can go to the map. So, first, let's go over the names of the towns. All the names of the towns are, they're basically just related to what they are. There's no real consistent theme. They're just all related to what they are. So we start here in Twin Leaf Town, which doesn't really mean anything, but it is the two houses of you and your rival, I guess. We go to this one, Sand Gem Town, because it's a beach, which we'll go to later on in the game. Like, this whole route area is very much Gen 1 inspired, right? The fact that you start in this one area and then you can go down here to the beach and on the sand, like, very Gen 1 inspired. Jubilife City, it's kind of supposed to be like something about lifestyle. They've got all the TV stuff here. Canalave is a dock, so it's supposed to reference the dock, I think. Floroma is a big Floroma. It's flowers everywhere. Eterna City is like old, like that's one of the things. Orenburg City is a mine. Hearthome City is supposed to be like family or whatever. They do the contest there. Celestic Town. Celestic means something old or something like that. This one's most obvious. Snow Point City. It's snowy. Solasone Town. I don't remember what that one is. Veilstone. Kind of another stone reference, I think. Pastoria. The town is pastoral. Sunny Shore. They have a power outage and they're like on the beach or sunny or whatever. And then the rest of it is just generic, right? Pokemon League, Resort Area, Fight Area, Survival Area. It does do a good job of mostly staying on land, unlike Gen 3, but they still do a sort of separate area off here, and they do also have this whole separate island called Iron Island, which is cool. The fact that it exists is pretty interesting. This map, I think, is pretty good. Definitely kind of like the mix between the like older ones. It's still got the main routes and stuff, but kind of showing off that it's not gonna be as linear as it is in Gen 3 or Gen in Gen 2 or Gen 3. Really, all the previous games were a lot more linear than how this one's going to be, right? I mean, you think about this whole area, right? There's a Turna forest is a whole thing. This section is not, like, it's not a line. It's a route, but it's not a line. And all of the lakes are on the map, and they're very much not traditionally designed routes. They're all lakes, and, you know, there's dead ends in this one, which doesn't happen in almost any of the other games. Gen 1 had, you know, the one dead end for Bill, I think. So, yeah. Definitely a good, well-designed thing. Now, we can't go down here yet. This is the... yeah, they'll tell us to try again later. But this is Pokemon Communication Club, which is LAN Pokemon. So they shift it into... not LAN... Is this LAN? No, we're not doing any of that, because that's not part of the actual game. But they did add a bunch of new stuff to access the... Oh, she's glitching into the wall. No. I'm good. They did a bunch of new stuff to take advantage of the DS's wireless capabilities, which is interesting because a lot of the DS kind of didn't have that until the DSi. But if you play this on a DSi, it's pretty good. You can actually use most of the wireless features, and it's yeah, and it's wireless. Let's go here. Buy. We have actually a lot of money now that I think about it. Let's buy 4. 5. And let's get some, this would be 500. And we'll get like 1 or 2 paralyzed heals. Probably two paralyzed heals. So now we have like 300 coins, whatever. Oh, and now we can go to our bag and see that it's all in the medicine. And I don't think you have to sort it anymore. Oh, whoops. Oh, you can move it around with the shift button. But, yeah, there's no real reason to. A lot of it's pre-sorted, right? So, yep, nothing big going on there. If we go down here, we can see Sand Gem Town is in the sand. Town of Sand. The implication that everyone else saves their game too. And if we go down here, we'll get to that route that is going to end into a beach very quickly. Yes, so we are not going to be able to do this until towards the end of the game, actually. And if we go here, we can see that Sand Gem Town is small, but still interesting. And we can go into, like, Don Lucas's house. Yep. And I think if we go up here, there might be something that we can get. No, it doesn't look like it. It's just the adventure rules. Yep. Yep. it's kind of interesting, right? If you think about it, Gen 2 was the big one where they went, we're going to change a bunch of stuff, right? Because you think about it, they had already ported Gen 1 to the Game Boy Color with Pokemon Yellow, so they just went, okay, we're putting it on the Game Boy Color, but we're also going to add a bunch of stuff. Gen 3, they were like, they did kind of a similar deal. They went, oh, we're moving this to the Game Boy Advance, but we're going to add like a bunch of stuff. This one, they said, we're moving this to the DS, but we're not going to add a bunch of stuff, at least not in terms of the base game. We're just going to basically port it over with better graphics, but still in the same art style, which is very strange. Well, it's a little weird. It's not unheard of or anything. Yeah, there's a little water thing here, but it doesn't go anywhere, which is funny. So, this is really one of the first ones where they didn't change a lot. Despite that, it's still one of the better ones, and maybe that's because they didn't change it a lot. They just went, oh, we also get the journal. That's a new thing. They just went, okay, well, we've made, for each game for the past, this came out in 2006, 10 years, past decade, we've been making new games every 3-ish years, 2 to 3 years, 96, 99, 2000, 2004, all the way to 2006, or 2003, 2002, 2003. You know, every 3 years, basically, we're making a new game that has a bunch of new stuff. Oh. This one, they said, okay, we have a new handheld, which will become one of the highest selling consoles in history, by the way. But we think it'll do well. They thought it would do well, and they were right. The DS, we're going to make the DS. We're going to make it for a long time. The Game Boy, people love the Game Boy. The DS is going to be better than the Game Boy. And it was. But the Pokemon game here is not going to be anything new. It's just going to be, gameplay-wise, repeat of the same Gen 3 stuff. Which is really, that's kind of crazy if you think about it. But at the same time, right, you can't really get mad at this or be like, oh, I wish they would have changed more, because it came out just a year or two after the last one. And there was nothing on here, you know, they still improved it, right? It still looks better. It's still for the new system, right? And it's not like they ported the old one to the new system like, you know, certain other games do. Certain PlayStation games just get a slight upgrade on the PS5. It's a new game, and it's a full game, and it's still a good game. But you can't look at this one and say, I mean, you have to look at this one and go, oh yeah, this is definitely not as improved as, or it's not as changed as the jump from Gen 1 to Gen 2 or the jump from Gen 2 to Gen 3. Gen 3 to Gen 4 is pretty much the same. Oh, I hope this doesn't stick kill him. I need to catch him. We also have this other tab up in the corner here, where we can, they've sorted all of the restore items even more quickly, and it gives us stuff, and there's like a whole new UI section down there that is completely new, which is cool, but you know, the gameplay's exactly the same. There's also like a last item thing, so if you're throwing Pokeballs at a guy, you can just hit, like, it's quicker to get to. Oh, that's cool. No. Where was... Oh, wait. I should check the, I forgot to check this new thing that we got, the journal. Because I did not, like, yeah. If we use the journal, we see that the game actually keeps track. It's actually giving us the real date, which is July 8th. The game is literally keeping track of everything you do, pretty much. It's a very strange feature, actually, in retrospect. It kind of helps you get back into the game after you've been gone. Like if you play for a little bit and then you drop it for a month or two, you can check the journal to see what you did last and what you were doing. That being said, it's not too difficult to figure that out. It's not like, you know, the game is complicated enough to need a specific record of everything that you've done. It's, you know, it is more complicated than the other ones, I think. Oh, you can also show them in person, your progress. But it is kind of interesting because a lot of the stuff they keep track of in there is just the Pokemon you catch and like the areas you go to. So it's kind of cool to look back on after you've done it. The other thing is that the starters in this one are all dual type, I think. They're definitely... I mean, the big one is that Chimchar is firefighting, which would become a thing that they would do a lot after this one. Oh, look, there's Dawn. She's going to probably teach me how to catch a Pokemon, which I've already done. What did I say? I believe the water-type Pokemon turns water-ice, and the grass-type Pokemon ends up as grass-ground. So they kind of end up doing well against each other, kind of thing. Turn to a cat's withdrawal. Yep, okay, we're gonna go to the bag. Pokeballs. Yeah, see the item used last? You can just click on that one and you'll use it again. So, yeah, she catches the Bidoof. Woo. Yep. Oh, she gives you the 5 Pokeballs. I bought them. Well. Oh, and we get our first battle. The trainer sprites in this one are the first ones where a lot of the artwork in this game indicates that they're probably going to move away from the classic style shortly, and it actually is surprising that it kind of took as long as it did, right? These games do look modern for their time, right? Gen 3 right? Gen 3 came out in like 2003, which is or 2002, which is only a year or two before things like, you know, Half-Life 2 came out, things that had high quality graphics. And this is a handheld, not a, you know, PC, so it's not that surprising. But, you know, it still looks not great compared to the other games coming out at the time. Where in contrast, this one, I mean, the DS, most of the DS stuff does kind of look like the N64, right? That's why they ported Mario 64 to the DS. Well, they didn't port it, they made a new one, but it works because the DS kind of has like the same capabilities as as the N64, vaguely. It's, you know, improved. There's stuff that it has that the N64 doesn't have, like, you know, the internet, menus. N64 has menus, but it has I think it has a slightly higher quality stuff. Ouch. But you can see, like, the sprites here are pretty high quality, right? Like, they're definitely above, they're on par with the stuff that was on the PS1, right? Which was not, like, coming out, which came out basically at the time of the first games. So it's not really, it's kind of starting to surpass the consoles of the original, like, the DS ones surpassed the consoles that were out when the first game came out, which is kind of an interesting little barrier. It doesn't really matter because, you know, it's handheld versus console, but since the series does eventually go onto the Switch, which is, you know, console plus handheld, it is kind of an interesting little question here, right? Because this game, I mean, these games sold well. They sold better than Gen 3, I think. And so, you know, with games like this and with the DS as a whole, you have to be wondering if people at Nintendo in 2006, 7, 8 are, you know, seeing, ooh, Shinx, I like Shinx, are seeing this and going, do we really need to even compete with the big consoles? Now, of course, they would release the Wii in 2006, 2007, and that would obviously be quite good, so they would of course go, well, I mean, it was good, we're clearly hitting a market here, so we'll just keep going. And then, but then, you know, the Wii U, why did it crit? I wanted the Shinx. But then, you know, the Wii U didn't do well, so. So the Wii U didn't do well, so it's not surprising to see that and go, okay, well, then we should try this other thing, right? We should just go for sort of a getting out of the console market almost. Not really, because the Switch is still basically an effective console, but right, it's on par with the consoles of basically the competing consoles. It's in between the PS3 and PS4, right? Although the actual capabilities are something to be argued over, right? It's kind of like, oh, you know, the graphics and stuff are poor. And I think there's a problem with people kind of just porting things without being like, okay, we're going to make this make sense. They're just going, oh, we can port Mortal Kombat to the Switch? Sure, let's just downgrade everything because it's easier than actually optimizing it, right? But at the same time, you know, it's representative of the market, right? The people who make the high quality big budget AAA stuff for see, item used last, we can just use it right again. Very convenient. For Xbox and PC and PlayStation are going, well, it doesn't really matter if we do this super low quality because it's not our, like, the Switch market is not our main market at all. But of course, it'll still be at the same price point because you can't change the price. Price is the price. Yes, you get all these schmucks. Classic. But I mean, like, you look at the characters, and the sprite work here is pretty darn good, right? Like, I'm thinking back to stuff that's on, like, PlayStation. You know, it's pretty much equivalent to, like, GameCube, right? Which is crazy to think about, because the last one was, like, that was the last console they made, right? The DS came out before the Wii, so they were kind of releasing something that could do not all of the stuff of the GameCube, but in terms of graphics, certainly some parts of it basically the same as the GameCube, right? Although the GameCube is definitely higher power. So, that's not entirely accurate. And you can tell that it's mostly for 2D stuff, right? The 2D stuff can look as good as the 2D stuff on the GameCube. Which is not really surprising. Because, you know, when you're not rendering stuff in 3D, it's not as much of an issue. Ouch. But now we can get the Shinx. I really like Shinx. When I played Pearl, I always grabbed him because I was like, oh, I'm playing a fire guy, because I always played Chimchar. We need a lightning guy to get rid of all the water guys, which was a funny kind of thing. But Shinx is actually good, and it's cool because it's there's a good amount of Pokemon, I think, in Gen 4 where you aren't sure what animal they're supposed to be. There's still a bunch that are like, oh, this one's a monkey, this one's a penguin, this one's a plant. But there are a few, like Shinx and some of the Eevee lines where it's kind of like, okay, what is this actually supposed to be? I mean, all the stuff that's in here is exactly... Oh, this is new. This is not in Gen... This is not in the other two games. This guy, who would become a recurring character, which is... He's like one of the only recurring characters in Pokemon. Pretty much. All the other games don't... Like, almost all the characters are new. This guy would show up in this game and I think Gen 5, maybe not Gen 6, but then he shows up again in Gen 7, I think. This guy is also totally not in Pearl and Diamond and Pearl. He's... It's very strange. Oh, I don't know what I clicked there. Whoops. Also, Galactic is presented as Team Rocket, not really as Team... Like, they're presented as a bunch of guys just stealing other people's Pokemon. They aren't presented as an actual, like, we're going to take over the world thing, which is what they kind of are. Oh, he gives you the versus recorder. Somebody else gives it to you in the other games. It is really interesting in this one because, they kind of... So Gen 1 and Gen 2, the storylines coincide, kind of. Gen 1 happens, Gen 2, all of the stuff in Gen 2 happens as a sequel to Gen 1. Like, the specifics aren't super relevant, but your rival is related to Gen 1. You go over to Gen 1 and you find out what's been happening while after the game. Gen 3 is not related to Gen 1 or 2, which is interesting, but it's not really surprising. This one is even more interesting because it's not related to Gen 3 or Gen 1 or Gen 2. They kind of got into this groove where they were making new stuff every time. Gen 5, I think, is the moment where they kind of shift a little bit back to doing stuff, but they never go fully back to Gen 1, Gen 2's jump, where everything that happens in Gen 2 is basically a sequel to Gen 1. But they do end up bringing stuff in from Gen 4 into Gen 5 a little bit, and then I think a little bit from Gen 5 into Gen 6, and a little bit from Gen 6 into Gen 7. And then, well, let's see, Gen 6, Gen 7, I think, and then Gen 8 is actually, Gen 8 is actually when they, stop doing that again, and then Gen 9 brings in a little bit back from Gen 8. They kind of ended up in this sort of like Marvel-esque, we're just going to reference things instead of actually having sequels. We're just going to reference characters from the other games, which is not terrible, but I do wish they would do a little bit more with it. You know, it is kind of limiting. Because, like, that just means, oh, we're going to have a couple of new characters instead of, or we're going to have a couple of recurring characters. I would like to, like, have some sort of sense of movement of time, which is what Gen 1 and Gen 2 have. Now we can look at the actual town map, and we can click this button to zoom in, which is cool. We can see it up in the corner there. We get some information about all of the stuff. Or at least all the routes. You get information about all the routes, and then the towns you visited, you get information about. Particularly what's in them, and you can move around, and then it'll tell you where the different things are. But we don't need to really look in that. And then this is the versus recorder. If we use it, I don't remember what this does exactly. Oh, this is just a battle videos thing. Maybe I'm thinking of something else. Oh, I thought it was the fight trainers again. Ah, yes. So this is status changes. We don't need to look at this. I know what all of these do. Let's read it. Yep. 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 I don't know if we're even going to get to the first gym today. The first gym in Gen 4 is hard to get to because it's in a cave. So you end up running in, and then you have to fight the Zubats and all this stuff, and you keep getting interrupted. Oh, and then you don't even fight the guy at the end. You just tell him to get back to his job, and he heads from the cave back to the gym, and then you can fight him. It's a basic interpretation. I think those guys you fight if you talk to them, so we're not going to talk to them. I will say, interesting thing about this one, it's hard to skip things. You kind of have to go through everything until you get to, like, Jubilife City, which is where we are now, and then you can kind of get through a little bit. But even that, you still have stuff to do. Yep, Pokiach is kind of a bad name. but it is a cool thing, because this is really the the improvement of this generation. Yes. Why is this going so slow? But if we find all three of these clowns, we get the watch. I vaguely remember where they are, but I'm gonna see if I can keep... I think I can... Does he just... Oh, no, okay, we can't leave. Yeah, so that's what the bottom menu is used for the most part. The Poke Watch, which does make sense, and is, you know, it's pretty good. I wonder if he pops out no matter which direction you go. This is one of the other clowns. Yes. Although if this was Gen 1, it would be wrong. Yeah, something's up with the music. The emulator's having trouble playing the music. But I think it also might be having trouble, like, yeah, they're really easy to find, the campaign clowns. Yes. And that's been a thing since Gen 1. Pokemon, all the moves have types. They've changed the types, though, over time. I think it's also having trouble loading all the 3D stuff, which is... It's interesting. This emulator might be bad. I might want to test out a different one before we go over to the next games, which are Heart Gold and Soul Silver, which are also on the DS. The next... 2, 3, this one, the next one, and the one after that are all on the DS. Pokemon Diamond, Pearl, Platinum, Heart Gold, Soul Silver, and Black and White 1 and 2. So now we get the Pokemon Watch at the bottom, and it tells us the time, and we can click buttons. Yes. Are we still in? Yeah, something's... It's having trouble loading something, I think. Okay, we can move around again. So we have here, it'll light up. We can press it to see kind of status of our guys. We can just have that running in the background. We can have the step counter, which is cool. Step counter is actually probably the most useful thing here, because with Gen 2's, with the hatching of eggs as well as timing stuff, a lot of it is counted based on your steps, which is interesting. So that's kind of relevant. We have a calculator, which is just for fun. It is sort of a real calculator with plus, minus, divide, and multiplication. And then we get back to the beginning. For some reason, we can make it look... And we can go back or forward. You get a bunch of different apps for this throughout the game. It's actually pretty interesting, although most of them are just quality of life stuff. It's like... There's nothing in there that is really essential to the gameplay. It's just kind of... Oh, you can now look and see how much health your guys have, which you could always check anyway, at any time. But now you can have it on a separate screen, so I guess that's cool. You have a calculator in the game. Did we need a calculator in the game? Probably not. Step counter is the one that I think is really useful, at least from off the bat. There's some other ones you get that are a little bit helpful in various ways. But the yeah, step counter is probably the only one that's like explicitly useful, but it's still just a quality of life thing, right? I mean, you think about it, do you really need to count the exact amount of steps you're going? Unless you're grinding. Okay, I think we do want some amount of shinks. It's like 6 levels up, so... Anyway, as I was saying, it's the only one I think that is helpful off the bat. There are a couple of other ones that are minorly useful, kind of. This lowers attack, right? Yeah, attack. We're already only doing like 2 anyway. So. But still, that's just a quality of life thing, right? It's not a new game mechanic to have a little bottom screen where you can see certain things, right? And maybe there's some app in there that I never like got or never looked at late in the game. Because I never actually managed to finish Pokemon Pearl. I got pretty far, but then I was missing something. There was some area I was supposed to go to that I couldn't get to. Or I didn't realize I was supposed to go to it. I think it was, yeah, somewhere. But, oh, ouch. Okay, we're going to pop him out now. Oh, critical. That's good. We definitely want Shinx not to die because we need XP for him to give him an electric move, which will help us. Flying move would also be a little bit helpful, but it's not as big a concern. The big thing that flying is good against is grass. It's also good against fighting, which is good, but mostly grass this early in the game, and we're already running fire, like we already have a fire type, so it's actually kind of an interesting little conundrum. If you run a fire type, you're not gonna, like, oh, the trainers also say stuff to you. That's a new thing. I don't think that's in the other games. Right? Like, there's a whole bunch of stuff with this game that you're kind of just like, whole laundry list of, oh, well, I guess that's nice. That's helpful. That's cool. It's like a cool addition. But then if you actually think about it, gameplay-wise, there's nothing here that's new. The level design is improved. The game, like, it's an improvement over Gen 3, to be sure. But, you know, this is probably the game, like, this is the first game where they go, nope, no changes. I mean, this is, like, almost the same as Blue or Yellow was to Gen 1. Oh, critical hit! We won! We split it. I will say, though, there's an interesting thing that people don't like about this game, and that is that it's slow. So, like, the big meme is that at, like, level 100, Chansey is, you close combat a Chansey, and it takes, like, 30 seconds for it to die once you, like, use the move and kill it. He's also a bit of a crybaby. Yeah. Well, his real name's, canonical name's Barry, but Ralph wants to be Gary so bad. He's not. He just doesn't. He doesn't have the swag. He's just, you know. He's just kind of like, oh, how could I lose? Incredible. I'm gonna try to beat you. I'm gonna run around recklessly. Ah. The main thing is, as you go through the game, you can head back to the big, what's the word? The big Pokewatch Corporation, and then you can get more, apps. They'll just develop them throughout the game, kind of thing, which is funny. But, man. You could also hear their cries, which is funny. I don't know what the purpose of that screen is, really. Like, I really don't really get it, but I mean, it is what it is, I guess. We'll see if we can get to Orberg, and then which I think we will be able to. We're gonna take the long route. We still need a fighting type move on Chimchar though, before we can really win. Which is actually gonna be kind of long to get. But if we can collect, I don't know, a grass type or something. But, like, unironically, the first gym, which is a rock type one, which is funny because that's what Gen 1 is as well. Oh, she doesn't fight you. Ah, yes, we also have the tunnel. Ugh, the tunnel. We hate tunnels. And we have to fight this guy. Oh, no, he gives you the HM. This is another thing. This doesn't happen as much as you'd expect. So the games have always been designed that you need certain gym badges before you can use certain hidden moves. And so this is a way of gatekeeping parts of the game out until you've beaten certain gyms. And to encourage you to do the gyms and make sure that to like complete the game you have to do all the gyms. This is the... However, you usually get the HMs after you're expected to beat the gym that's associated with them. So, like, you don't get the fly HM until after you beat... Or you get it, like, right at the same time as you're expected to fight the gym. This is the first one where you really get it before. And this whole tunnel is full of these rocks that you totally want to break, but you can't because you have to get through it, do the gym, then come back. Which is really funny, because if you think about it, they could have always done that. They could have always been like, yeah, you always get the HMs right before you get, or you get the HMs way before you get any of the other stuff. But they don't usually. So this is kind of an interesting thing. And I think it happens more than once throughout the game too, which is funny. Alright, we're gonna catch this Psyduck. It's gonna give us a water type move, I believe. We're gonna get a water type move and we're gonna use it to sweep the gym. Yippee. The fact that they decided to do another rock type gym as the first gym in this generation really, really, you know, if you weren't sure this was a Gen 1 almost rip-off, I didn't mean to go that way. Oops. Yeah, if you weren't sure that this was a Gen 1 ripoff, you know it now. Right, because yeah, that's pretty obvious. Remember. They also go back here. They continue with the whole, like, if you fight all the trainers, then you're probably going to have an easy time of the gyms kind of thing. Which is to be expected. That's what Gen 3 was. And, yeah, there's really no surprise in that. They really do like to encourage you to just go through the whole level to avoid missing anything and to really get all this stuff. And, like, they really like to reward you for doing that. Which is understandable because... the one thing they did get rid of in this version, though, is the phone. In Gen 3, you have a phone. And also in Gen 2. And people call you randomly. They kind of, like... I mean, they have random stuff they say, but they kind of tell you, like, about their day. Like, it's very weirdly personal and almost a very good thing where it's like, oh yeah, they're calling you and like they're like, I fought somebody, I lost, it was too bad, you know, we should fight again. Like, they're normal. Yeah, we gotta go to the coal mine. This is also another advancement in the ways of towns having distinct characters. The towns here all have, the buildings here all have a lot more character than in the other games. And they've slowly been moving forward on that front for a while. Oh wait, this is the wrong one. This is the Poke Mart. I need to go to the other one. But like all the buildings and the backgrounds are kind of rendered, so yeah, I don't know. The emulation is not working the way I wanted it to. So I'm probably gonna adjust that for next week. There's a whole lot of features for me to go through to try to fix it. So, yeah, I decided not to try to do that right during the stream. I could have, but it would have taken 20-30 minutes and I would have been just searching up stuff randomly, so to try to figure out what config thing is messing up my emulation. I really hope it's not like an emulator problem, that this emulator's just buggy, laggy. It might be, which would be unfortunate, but oh, we need to check our site up that we got. This is DESMU ME, I guess, which was just one of the first ones when I did a quick search up. Oh right, you can also go to the different things down here. I forgot about that. But he doesn't have a water type move. He just has water sport, which is not super helpful. So we'll switch him to the front. Yeah, so you have to go pretty deep into the mine to get this guy, and then that's just for a chance to fight him, right? Like, you don't get to the bottom of the mine and then you fight him. You get to the bottom of the mine and then he goes back to his thing and you still have to fight him. Huh. This is gonna be interesting. Yeah, this is gonna be interesting. I don't think I can switch out because of Bide, but I am gonna try to go to Chimchar. Yep, can't be switched out. So we're just gonna keep stretching for a little bit. I do want to catch the Onyx, if possible. Oh, still caught by Bide. No, he's gonna use it again. So he's gonna like buy trap me, basically. I could lower his stats. He's gonna harden. I'm gonna tail whip, which I think lowers defense. Yeah, okay, so nothing happened, and I took 2 more damage, or 1 more damage. This kills, yeah. Critical, why? So if we use Chimchar here, I think I should be able to use like Ember to just kind of get through this. Because Ember, oh, I really do not have any good moves for dealing with Rock-type Pokemon yet. I mean, we're close, but I can probably grind this out to get him down to a decent health. Once or twice more, maybe. There's gotta be some config or something that I'm running that's just screwing it up a little bit. I'm gonna throw a Pokeball. I think this is down far enough. I think I'll get him. The 3DS one is the one that I'm a little sort of concerned about in terms of the quality of my actual tech that I have. Because I don't think, you know, emulation can take a lot of resources sometimes, but for anything later than earlier than the DS should be fine, right? Like, I can run N64 on this no problem, and I could probably run Game Boy or GameCube and Wii well. I could probably do that okay, like acceptable. Oh, just enable. Okay, let me check that. What's that? CPU emulated dynamic. Where's that? Dynamic recompiler under CPU emulation. Emulation settings. Dynamic recompiler. Is this gonna... it's gonna need a restart. Okay, hold on. We will... I think it crashed. Did it crash? It crashed. Okay, well... I might... it doesn't have an autosave feature, I don't think, so... This could be the end of the stream. That's okay, we got pretty far. I'm happy with the discussion that I had. Oh, and then set the block size to 100. I'm at least gonna go in here and test it out to make sure, because I'm gonna use this for Heart Gold. Config file. Yeah, we don't have any. Yeah, we don't have any save states, so we're yeah, this is probably going to be the end of the stream, but I'm going to fix this. That wasn't even, I didn't even change anything. I told it not to change, and it crashed anyway. We don't need to watch the whole thing again. Well, I think that is running better. Yep. Blah 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 blah. Blah 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 blah. That's sad that it crashed and broke my game. Well, I mean, that's what you get for not saving and stuff. No info needed. Yeah, this is looking better, but I want to get to the actual game to make sure. Oh, you press A on here and it goes, and he goes, no, not that one. Press the Pokeball. I got through pretty much all of the important stuff, at least that's in the beginning of the game. I think there's some stuff later, like the Poffins, and they return the contexts. Here, we'll do this just for fun. But we'll do Bob, because that's what I always do when I need a name quickly. And then, yeah, Bob and Barry. It's Robert and Ralph, Bob and Barry. Also my... Oh, it messed up my thing, too. I'm not, It's a little bit bigger than my screen. Whoops. Can we go back? No, nope. Gee, whatever. I just want to get to the actual game so I can see... Melon DS is a more up-to-date emulator and probably runs better. I'll check it out, because I was not expecting to have trouble here. When I did like a quick just run it test, I didn't notice the slowing down, but then, you know, I actually played it for a little while and then I noticed it. So I will do I'll probably install that one and then do kind of like a compare test. Press B, 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 yep. Okay, yep. And then we run out, and we get Ralph. Yeah, this is running a lot smoother. Okay. And the sound has no trouble anymore, which is, yeah, that was really weird. And I think black and white have a lot more problems, or not problems. They're a lot more advanced in terms of what they give you. Yeah, okay, this is having no problems now, so we're good. Hold down spacebar. I don't have spacebar tracked to anything here for controls. Unless there's probably a button in here to like either frame skip or speed up. That's what a lot of emulators have. But this one, maybe it's in cheats. That's funny. It's probably somewhere to do the speed up of the game. That's kind of a funny feature, actually, because that's one that's from the Pokemon Coliseum thing, because once you play through the original Pokemon Coliseum enough, you get access to an emulator, almost, where you can plug in your Game Boy. There's probably a button to set up that. It depends on the emulator. But in Pokemon Coliseum for the Nintendo 64, there's a thing where you can buy, or maybe you can just hook it up. You can plug in your Game Boy with the copy of the game of Pokemon Red or Blue, and then the game Pokemon Coliseum will play the game at 2 or 4 times speed, depending on how far you've gotten in Pokemon Coliseum. So they kind of like wanted you to speedrun the game. It's a very, very curious thing that they just kind of added, and then the emulators took it and ran with it, because it's very helpful when all of the games start exactly the same. They all have a bunch of dialogue at the beginning that's exactly the same. And I mean, we went through here, except for like the Pokewatch and some specific things, the beginning of these games is pretty much all the same. So when they don't change any gameplay features, you know, if you played Gen 1, 2, and 3, and then 4, yeah, Gen 3 to Gen 4 is basically the same. It's just more stuff. Like it's just a new game with the same stuff to do but more. So it's not bad, but yeah, we're gonna see what they go move on with for the next couple of ones. But yep, I mean it's an hour and 45 minutes, so I'm still happy with this amount of streaming here. So that'll be the end of the stream. Cut off shortly, unfortunately, due to a crash. I definitely will improve my emulator for next time. So stay tuned for Heart Gold and Soul Silver next Minty Monday.